still recovering from Rebecca's story. After I heard it the first time, I immediately got on the phone and called my dad. I was like, I love you so much, Dad. I am the proud daughter of Coach Meggers. Now, to most of you, that doesn't mean anything, and that's okay. But if you have ever spent any time in the hood of Garland County, or if you have ever in any way, shape, or form been associated with the Hot Springs School District, you know who Coach Meggers is, and you know that he is a really big deal. He's a hometown hero of sorts. He taught 7th grade history, and he coached track and football for over 30 years at the same school. This is a big deal because Hot Springs School District is kind of rough. People don't usually stay for a long time. That's kind of where you start, and then you move on. But this didn't happen for Dad. He single-handedly helped raise the majority of the children that came out of the East Side projects since the late 70s. These are his people. He loves them. They love him. His celebrity became pretty obvious to my sister and I when we were younger, and we would go places with Dad, like to the grocery store, or the liquor store, or restaurants. And anytime we went to somewhere with Dad, it always took a really long time because tons of people would come up and talk to him. They'd shake his hand. And that's not uncommon for coaches in small towns, but what was different about this is they were talking to Dad about their kids having trouble at home or a financial issue they had run into. And Dad always did the same thing. He listened patiently. He gave them some advice or some well wishes, shook their hand, and always made them feel like they were important. At an early age, I started to notice something about these visitors. And so once I asked Dad, who are all these people that come up and talk to you? And he said, well, they're my friends. And I said, okay. Do you have any white friends? And he said, well, I guess a couple. And I was like, well, why don't white people ever come up and talk to you? Because as a kid, you notice things. And he said, well, Meg, I guess white folks just don't have nothing to say to me, and that's okay. And I said, okay, that's good enough for me. We moved on. The older I got, I started to notice that my dad did have a very strong connection with the African American community in Hot Springs, and I started to notice that this helped him with his job a lot. This made him a better teacher because he was able to make relationships with these families and these students that normally would not invite a middle-aged white man into their home. So this made him a better teacher and a better person for the district. He told me a story that kind of put it in perspective for me. When he was 4 years old, he grew up next door to the Ebenezer Baptist Church. And this was a church in Hot Springs that was an all-black church. And he would be playing outside on a Sunday afternoon, and he would notice that these women in these big, beautiful hats would set up a picnic area. And after church, everybody would come out, and they would eat, and they would laugh, and they would talk. And so curiosity got the best of him, and he snuck across the road one day. And as soon as he stepped foot on the property, one of those women in the big, beautiful hat swooped him up. And they said, are you hungry? And he said, well, yes, ma'am. And so they made him a plate and sat him down in the middle of all of it. And he realized pretty early on that there was something special about being over there. Everybody was happy. Everyone was enjoying each other's company. Children were playing and laughing. And it was a lot different from the stuffy Roman Catholics that he had been raised with, that preferred for children to be seen and not heard. And so at 4 years old, Dad not only became the only white member of the Ebenezer Baptist Church, but he also decided that this was kind of where he belonged. All was well for the next 4 years, as he spent every Sunday at the Ebenezer Baptist Church, until he was 8, and he was crossing the street, and my grandmother caught him with blueberry cobbler all over his face and promptly picked him up and beat his ass all the way back to the house and said, you are not to go anywhere I don't give you permission ever again. So that ended his membership at the Baptist Church. However, it was from that moment that I really learned a lot about Dad. I learned that this is why he is who he is. This is what made him such an example in a central Arkansas area of what acceptance of everything is. I'm going to give you a little taste of some more fun facts about Dad. My dad is a true Southerner. His accent is as thick as honey. I often compare him to Shelby Foote. Everything he says is really drawn out. And even if he's cussing you like a dog, it just sounds very romantic. My father is also an amateur weatherman. This is not because he has a deep love for science or technology, but it's because he hates every meteorologist that has ever been hired at Central Arkansas. He thinks they're stupid and they're ugly. So he learned to use the internet, as he calls it, and now he gives us our own weather updates. He calls my sister, who lives in California, and myself, and gives us a weekly update on what the weather in our area is going to be like, what we should wear, and he never leaves that conversation without reminding us to keep an eye on the sky. My father hates Northwest Arkansas. Won't come. I've lived here since 2001. He has been here 3 times. Once I got very sick, college graduation, and my wedding, the end. It houses some of the things he dislikes the most. Hippies, Yankees, and cold weather. Dad is a lifelong supporter of PBR. He was drinking it before the kids made it cool. He will only allow Motown music in the house. Does not own any other music. We had a good raising on that. My father has a very specific food group. Anything you can fry, or anything you can barbecue. That's it. My dad has a favorite movie. He's real proud of it. It's called Friday. My dad watches a lot of VHSs. He's got Friday. He watches it all the time. He quotes it still. He often calls me Devo. He'll also occasionally stop randomly and say, "You got knocked the fuck out." He's special. He has another favorite movie that he doesn't really tell people about. He also has it on VHS, but it's secret. He loves Miss Congeniality. He's got 1 and 2. He always acts like it's accidentally on TV. Like it's on TWSS, and we're like, no dude, we saw the tape. You know? I get it. I mean, he loves Sandra Bullock. She's a hottie, I get it. If you're gonna do it, don't lie about it. He also has a favorite TV show. We found this interesting when my father started knowing more about pop culture than we did. Started knowing things about Iggy Azalea and the Kardashians, and come to find out this is because his favorite show is on MTV. He watches a lot of it. It's called Ridiculousness. I'm not really sure how that happened. It's a show, it's just clips from the internet of people falling down and people hurting themselves. And one time I was watching it with him because I tried my best to understand it. And I said, "Dad, what's up with this show?" And he said, "Well, Meg, there's just always going to be something funny about people hurting themselves." He was right. My dad also has some phrases that are pretty popular. They're good. One of our favorites, "Do it to it like Harvey Lee Pruitt." We don't really know who Harvey Lee Pruitt is. My sister and I have investigated, and we don't know, but whoever he is, he made an impression on Dad at some point. Another one that is famous, especially in the summer, is, "Whew, hot day deserves a cold beer." We always agree. But our favorite, one that my husband and I say to each other constantly now, is, "Don't start none, won't be none." said he's a G. It makes sense. My father actually, he retired from the Hot Springs School District. It was terrible. They had a ceremony. Thousands of people showed up. It was a beautiful ceremony. They made a Coach Megger's Day in Hot Springs. It's in June. You all should celebrate it. It's a big deal. At his retirement, some things started to change. We started receiving 2 p.m. phone calls on a Wednesday from Dad, who had mixed two of his favorite things, which are PBR and MTV. And he'd call us and be like, oh my gosh, Meg, I just saw Reese Witherspoon's wedding on MTV. It was gorgeous. If you ever get married, I think we can do a backyard wedding just like that. So my sister and my stepmom and I got together and we decided Dad needed to go back to work. It was just too much. So after a year of being retired, Dad found a new job. Now, he didn't go back to Hot Springs. He found a new career teaching at a school right outside of Hot Springs. It was more of a rural area, and he became the in-house teacher, which was perfect for him. So after his first week, I called Dad to see how it went. And as a fellow teacher, you know, the first week is always hard, so I wanted to check on him. And I called him. And Dad did what Dad always does, which is reaffirm one of his mottos, which is, when you teach, you gotta roll with it. And I've kind of adopted that too, but Dad told me about how he wasn't real sure about this new school. He said nobody got in a fight. There wasn't any baby mama drama. Nobody brought any guns to school. He thought he was going to be really bored. This is a good problem to have. This is not a bad thing. And he said, no, I think it'll be fine. They kind of do things like me out here. They kind of roll with it. And I thought, okay. And Dad proceeded to tell me about a particular student out there in the high school who had some communication issues and did not verbally speak to people. However, he had these very elaborate hand puppets, about 5 or 6 different hand puppets. And he said, now Meg, they're not like your sock puppet. These are like real puppets, wires and all. He said they must have spent a lot of money on these puppets. He said, but that cat out there, now remind you, if he doesn't know your name, you're a cat. That cat out there walks around with those puppets all day long, and everybody just kind of rolls with it. He wouldn't last a week at Hot Springs. Those puppets would be gone. And he said, well, you know, I like it out here because nobody really pays them any attention. I don't know why they would. Those puppets are very polite. And he said, I was doing bus duty the other day, and that cat walked by on the crosswalk, and I said, have a good afternoon. And sure as the world, one of those puppets turned around and said, well, you too. So, Dad's been there for a while. And as, you know, the more I teach, the more I see how Dad's life lessons come through, because you're going to see some stuff every year, every day. You got to roll with it. Another life lesson that I learned from Dad, which is really important, as I'm about to be a parent in a few months for the first time. Yeah, all of you enjoy your beers. Some of the things I've learned from Dad from parenting that I'm holding close to me are to unconditionally love your children. He is a football coach who had 2 very prissy daughters. Bless his heart. But he loves us unconditionally. The other one is to be our biggest cheerleader. He never missed a dance class. He never missed a recital. He was always our biggest cheerleader. But the most important one that dear old Dad taught us was about being our biggest defender. You see, my sister was 9 months pregnant, and she had ordered a crib from a boutique in the town she lived in. And when Dad, you know, was talking to Jessica about it, she messed up, and she told Dad about how the crib place hadn't delivered her crib, and her baby was due the next week, and they wouldn't return her money, and the crib was on back order, and she didn't know what she was going to do. That was a big mistake. We both made it. So Dad said, don't worry about it, Shug. I gotcha. So they got off the phone. And the next day she woke up, and there was a crib on her porch with a note attached that said, please let your father know how sorry we are for the inconvenience. So she called me and she said, I can't do it, I can't deal with it, you're gonna have to find out what he said. I was like, because we've done this before. So I called Dad, I'm like, hey Dad, Jess has a crib on her porch. He goes, well, does she? That's great. And I said, you want to tell me what you said? And he said, well, I just called that woman and explained to her the predicament that she put us in. I said, okay, what else did you say to her? And he said, well, I just asked her if she had a broom. So I said, unfortunately, I said, what's the broom for? And he said, well, I explained to her that if she didn't get that crib to your sister by tomorrow, she was going to need that broom to sweep up all the glass out of her storefront for the next week. There it is. That's Dad. So I said, Dad, you cannot talk to people that way. You can't harass people like that. And that's when Dad said, well, you know what? That's what that bitch at the store said too. He said, but I'm going to tell you just like I told her. Call the cops if you need to. I'm fine with going to jail. I got some cats I need to catch up with anyway. He said, in fact, don't worry. I already got the address.